VPI Pet Insurance presents Ask the Vet with Dr. Justine Lee from Pet Poison Helpline. Did you know in the past 3 months, Pet Poison Helpline received more than 400 calls about chocolate?
Well, I always keep chocolates away from Tucker. I know they can be dangerous.
Good start. But the problem is there's different levels of toxicity when it comes to chocolate. Chocolate comes in various sources and sizes. Take, for example, white chocolate versus cocoa powder versus baker's chocolate.
Okay, so not all types of chocolate are equally bad?
White chocolate barely has any real chocolate in it. The biggest component that we worry about with chocolate poisoning is methylxanthine. It's the chemical that causes chocolate poisoning.
Okay.
And so the darker and the more bitter the chocolate, the more dangerous it is. So even for a large dog, a small piece of baker's chocolate can result in chocolate poisoning. One of the things we worry about is, for example, Tucker's a 50-pound dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for a 50-pound dog, Tucker would have to ingest over 100 pounds of white chocolate before it results in true chocolate poisoning. That said, he'd still get really sick from all the sugar and the fat, and it can actually result in pancreatitis, which is inflammation of the pancreas. That's different from milk chocolate. Tucker would only need to ingest about half a pound or 8 ounces of milk chocolate before it results in chocolate poisoning.
Okay.
When it comes to baker's chocolate, Tucker would only need 1 ounce before it would cause poisoning. See the difference?
Wow, I didn't know that. Such a small amount of baker's chocolate could be so harmful.
That's right.
So what would happen to Tucker if he accidentally got some of that?
Clinical signs of chocolate poisoning include things like chocolate vomit or chocolate diarrhea, which means the diarrhea smells like chocolate, agitation, a racing heart rate, heart arrhythmias, and in severe ingestions with large amounts or concentrated chocolate, it can actually cause seizures. When in doubt, you always want to keep it out of reach. The important thing to remember is when it comes to any kind of poisoning, the sooner you call for help, the sooner you seek medical attention, it's always easier, it's less expensive, and it's safer for your dog before they've actually developed clinical signs.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's so scary. So what else do I need to be aware of in the kitchen?
Grapes and raisins. Most people don't know grapes and raisins are poisonous. It actually can result in acute kidney failure. And the frustrating thing with grapes and raisins is dogs don't actually show any clinical signs until 2 to 3 days later when they've already developed acute renal failure. So when in doubt, you want to keep these out of reach and seek veterinary attention right away. If we know that a dog's been poisoned by grapes and raisins, we can treat them aggressively with IV fluids to flush out their kidneys. We can monitor their blood work to make sure the kidneys are working well, treat them with anti-vomiting medication, and sometimes even blood pressure medication, and they'll do okay. The important thing to remember is there's so many sources of grapes and raisins in the kitchen, and things like trail mix, raisin bran, or even bagels with raisins are all potentially poisonous.
You know, you always think of these foods as being helpful, so you
Right.
don't really think of them as being harmful, so that's great information.
That's right. I also always worry about parents who have toddlers in high chairs. And the reason why is grapes and raisins are commonly fed as a snack to kids. And as you can imagine, they fly off the high chair and the dogs end up hovering around and they end up hoovering up all those grapes and raisins. So very poisonous in that situation too.
Wow, I honestly didn't know about grapes and raisins.
Another atypical source that people aren't aware of is actually alcohol poisoning. Most pet owners, thankfully, don't actually give their dogs any alcohol.
Well, maybe frat boys.
That's true. The most common source of alcohol poisoning is actually not from mixed drinks or beer, it's actually from bakers. So during certain seasons or during the holidays, there's more unbaked bread dough or even sourdough starters. And the problem is they contain yeast. So you can imagine when a dog actually swallows that, the yeast rapidly expands in the stomach because the moist, warm environment of the stomach sort of acts as a natural oven. And when that happens, it can expand from a tiny piece of dough into a huge amount of dough just from the yeast rising. And that results in bloat. So we can see signs of vomiting, we can see signs of retching, we can see signs of abdominal distension. And typically, a Labrador or dog can hold a huge amount of food in their stomach. We actually worry that when bread dough expands, it expands beyond the size of their stomach, so it can be really painful and cause vomiting. Your typical Labrador stomach can hold about 2 liters of content. So you can imagine for them to get that sick, that means that that dough has expanded above and beyond a soda pop bottle that's greater than 2 liters of size.
Wow, that's huge. Now, I can see how the expansion in the stomach can be really dangerous, but where does the alcohol poisoning come in?
Top it off when the yeast is actually metabolizing the sugar in the dough. It metabolizes it into alcohol and carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide causes the stomach to bloat, and the yeast is metabolized to alcohol. So it's a double whammy. You end up getting bloat and alcohol poisoning. Clinical signs of alcohol poisoning in dogs, basically severe inebriation. They're comatose, they're not breathing well, and they can actually have a life-threateningly low blood sugar. So when in doubt, you want to keep any kind of unbaked bread dough out of reach. I've actually seen dogs that have been poisoned by rum-soaked fruit cakes during the holidays. I mean, who still makes those things? When in doubt, if you're baking, you want to keep your dog out of the kitchen.
Definitely. I mean, I love to bake, and I'm just really glad I didn't have to find this out the hard way.
That's right. In case of emergency, always get veterinary advice. Keep emergency numbers posted for quick reference, or better yet, pre-program them into your cell phone so you can call for life-saving medical advice immediately. Pet Poison Helpline is available 24/7 and is a quick phone call away. It's also a good idea to have a VPI pet insurance policy in case of emergencies like these. When the unexpected happens, your biggest concern is taking care of Tucker and making sure that he gets the best care possible. And with VPI, you're financially prepared for the unexpected.
Great point. It's always best just to be prepared when danger comes looking for your pet.
That's right.
If you suspect that your pet may have ingested something harmful, seek immediate veterinary advice. Pet Poison Helpline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help you through any pet poisoning emergency. Are you prepared for unexpected veterinary expenses? VPI Pet Insurance provides a financial safety net for all kinds of pet emergencies. Get a no-obligation quote for the pet insurance recommended #1 by veterinarians.